We are live. JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to Friday.
Did you change it to unlisted to public?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. Hey, will you just turn off those lights right there?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Jean, how are you? We have questions from Jean. Oh, I had them on my phone. Jean, how are you today? Already got a thumbs up from Jean. Traveling Man, what's up? Fred, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much. John and Clay. Boom. Gonna go to dinner with Clay.
You are?
Sometime. No, we are.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, sometime soon. All right, Mary and Jean. I did, Jean. We're actually answering yours first. And let's see. Arcadia Home. What's up, Mike P? Thank you for being on, guys. Kenda. Yay, Kenda's here. I love it. Are we? Is it? We got it. Bruce, what's up? Joshua Flores. Hello, hello. Got your book in the mail. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Traveling Man, got PPPA approval, but no further info. Well, I'm glad you got it approved. Guy, Arthur, what's up? What's up? Garuza, it's small. Vance and Associates, how you doing? Milton, let's see, Garuza, hello from New Hampshire. Jason Foote, Jocelyn Cook, Milton. Homer Dog, hey, what's up, Homer Dog? Terza, Rusty. Nancy, hello. Nancy, I got your question. We're gonna answer right at the beginning. Got Chase email, but no more PP.
I didn't know we were doing that, so I was not prepared.
Well, our Grace, Linda, got Pennsylvania Yak Adventures, sole proprietor proof for PPP, waiting on funds. Awesome, I love it. What happens if the schedule is negative? You unfortunately won't get any. Dark Waters, what's going on? So glad to see you. Amy, Anders, Arthur. Let's see, Milton, Robert of Philadelphia. All right, yay. Tina Beard, how are you? How are you guys? Milton and Arthur and Connie.
Robert says, thank you for being on. Our 50 employees, thank you. They got paid today in tears of relief and joy.
Yay. I love it. All right, Marina and Randy, waiting for funds. Once funded, 8 weeks start ticking. Yes. Mike P. Can I pay back from when I closed with the PPP loan? That'll be the date you get it. Line 31 is it. Dark Waters. Talking, I love it. People visiting amongst themselves. I love it. Okay, so this is I get to see the comments right here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. You're signed out of YouTube, sign in. Just got it. Let's see, Harlan. We got Misty. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Misty. And Robert, we have been enjoying your snacks as well as Cooper. We really appreciate that. Let's see, Amy Cook and Arthur and Milton. And let's see, Misty and Connie, Matt Evans. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Ask Amanda if she went to Penn State. That's where I graduated from.
I did not.
Tony Yu from San Francisco Bay Area. Happy Friday. Harlan, good evening. Let's see. Oh, it just kicked on me. Marina, I just received PPP on the 16th, middle of the month. Any ideas how to start my 8 weeks? It's when you get it. PA Adventures, Randy Lang, waiting on funds. Good. Can I pay back from when I was closed on the PP? You can pay back whatever, if I'm understanding there. Let's see, Milton, if it's negative, you won't qualify. And let's see. Yes, El Sriracha, yes you can. The fuel does count. If you go to my website, you'll see in that does count. Michael Downey, You have become an addiction. I appreciate that. Milton Harris, hey, what's up? Tina Beard, working through the spreadsheet for forgiveness. And I wasn't even thinking I had those lined up on my phone that I'm now talking to. Let's see, Tina Beard and CPA, love it. Saw your email, David Taggart. Let's see, oh, shoot, it jumps. I almost need like a bigger screen.
Well, that's just, there's a lot of people.
I know. Well, I just want to say hi to everybody. Works. Let's see. Gosh, I just want to say thanks to everybody. Can I apply for EIDL? You could, but they're out. All the funds are gone. Hey, Tracy, I got you on my list. Thank you so much. I'm glad. I really enjoyed your email. Thank you so much. And okay, thank you, Charlotte. I really appreciate that. So I tell you what, I have enjoyed telling everybody about Jason of Dark Waters Meg about this right here. I think I might even get a news interview out of it. I think Jason is potentially getting a news interview, which I'm sure he would have rather gotten PPP money than a news interview. But anyways, thanks again for that. And I used you as an example, not your name or anything, but in a couple of my videos. And then a special shout out. I don't know if Eric and Allie are on. And we don't usually use last names, but they are from Ohio, and haven't been to the office, and they said, yeah. So little plug right there.
Orthomocular products.
Yeah. So this was like been sitting at the office for like 2 weeks. The staff has gone in here and there. I was like, why didn't you guys tell me? But anyways, I got some wonderful supplements, a mug, and they said, you're staying up so late, so they sent me some zinc, which is great because we're running low, a multivitamin, and then an immune support. So I really appreciate that. And they sent me a check. What? So, like, really taken aback. So we've sent something in return to say thank you. I don't know if Eric and Allie are on, but thank you so much. And then I wanted to give a shout out to just a few of the CPAs. I don't know if Ben Franklin's CPA's on, and Julio and Kenda and Tina and I think Nancy used to be something, but Brad, Homer Dog, and Mike from Simi Valley, and then we got Brent who's an EA, and then Diana with Allegra EA. And the reason I just want to give a shout out is that, boy, there's nothing more of a true honor when one CPA is helping out another CPA, and there's really no benefit other than just helping each other, and to hear some of the compliments. It really means a lot, and it helps me know that what I'm doing is good. And so my grandfather, Omar Abbott Slater, CPA, I know he would really enjoy seeing all of this. And then I wanted to, I don't know if we have Dr. Stark on. He is from Ames, Iowa, and we're gonna go to a football game with him. Okay, we're taking him up on it. October 27th, we're gonna go see OU play Iowa State. Clay is taking us to dinner. Okay, when we're up in Boston. Brad sent me in from Michigan. CPA sent me. He said, "Hey, accept the 4 a.m. challenge," and I've just been like, how do you figure out the rest of these haircuts? And so I haven't been able to dive into it, but he sent me a spreadsheet. That's when you know you're a CPA, when you get excited that you got a spreadsheet with some numbers and calculating some things. And so thank you so much for that, and I look forward to following up. And then Mike
and Matthew Conrad, CPA.
Oh yes, Matthew oh yeah.
He's on right now.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. On behalf of CPAs, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matthew. And it does mean a lot. It does mean a lot when one CPA to another, we're looking out for each other. And I wanted to just, Mike, CPA, he's in Simi Valley, sent me some stuff from that he's been using on RIA, and then Brent and Diana. So just minorly wanted to give some shout outs there. We're gonna go through our questions, and Nancy Hiller had a couple of questions. And so Nancy, what we were talking about, there's a video that I put out the other day that was just talking about how, no one should be a sole proprietor. Like, why would you want to be in a partnership if you're actively involved because it's subject to self-employment tax? And now, of course, there's always reasons for it, right? The CPA and the attorney and family planning and all that good stuff. There could be a need for a partnership, right? But the rule of thumb would be typically if you're going to be actively involved, you'd want to be an S corp. But then that brought Nancy to had a question about a K1 that's from a partnership that has a box 14 with an amount in it. And then what happens if that amount of box 14 is not picked up as self-employment income at the individual level? So the one thing, Nancy, is that I know that you're indicating that the circumstances possibly led to some PPP, but do know this, it is kind of an easy fix, right? It may not be the best fix, but you can just have your CPA. I don't know if you're a general partner or the managing member, because if you're a limited, you wouldn't have box 14, so you might revisit what kind of owner you are in that partnership, because that does determine whether or not it is going to be, okay, Nancy, yes, whether or not it's subject to the self-employment tax. Now, if you were using the self-employment tax for the PPP, then I think you're going to be stuck with that, because in essence, you've handed it in related to that. And then on the question of pulling the money out, we're going to walk through a scenario here, and if all you have is payroll costs and nothing else, you can use 75% of it, the only employee, so to speak. But if you're self-employed, right, then you're going to follow a different formula that we're going to go through. So check with your bank, really, and see what category they've put you in, or maybe even look at your application, but see what category. Did they put you in the partnership category, or did they put you in the sole proprietor? Let's see. All right. So let's see. Someone said that, do I have a video on there that's outdated or something?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Someone write it down.
It's a video about sole proprietorship forgiveness. It's wrong. Schedule amount is maxed out at 100,000. And we have.
Oh, well, I always knew it was maxed out at 100 grand, so not sure what to say about that. I'll review it. It's always been maxed out at 100. At the time, it was 100 plus the health insurance and the retirement match. I know that I was going back and forth with the number. And then, of course, the SBA came out and said, nope, it's just line 31. And so I'm not going to take it down. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. But usually what I'll do is I'll put in the body something, and I don't know if I actually did it in that one or not, but I'm not going to take it down, just from the standpoint of there's a lot of other reasons that I'm not going to take it down. So really at the end of the day, I'll put a warning on there, and or not a warning, but a notice on there. So thanks for letting me know. And you got to, everybody has to remember that videos, they're made before today's video. Okay, I guess I'll have to look at it. Go ahead and send me an email about what you're talking about. I do want them to be accurate. So I'll review it. Thank you for your feedback. I can't really keep up with what you're saying, so I just really would like it if you'd send me an email and explain what it is that you're indicating. Let's see. On the forgiveness on the sole proprietor. Oh, I know what you're talking about. I used 240,000 in the number, didn't I? Okay. Yeah, you're right. So I don't know. I guess I'll have to redo the video. I know what you're talking about now. I'd gotten up early, did an interview at 6:15 live, and I was like, well, I'm dressed up. I might do a couple of interviews. So I get it. You're right. You're right. It's limited to 100 grand. So thanks for bringing it to my attention.
Matthew Conrad CPA, JJ, just got an email from my bank that PPP has been funded and deposited into my account.
Awesome.
Thank you again as you help
Yeah.
me and my clients who also got funded this week.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, good deal. I love that so much.
Sorry.
Yeah. So anyways, so for Nancy, at the end of the day, something needs to be done. I don't know how the PPP was affected, but yes, something needs to be done. Either box 14 needs to go away, or you need to pay self-employment tax if the box 14 has to stick on that. So, all right. I'm going to run through a couple of things because I know we're going to have potentially some questions. Oh, could you find Tina Beard had an email?
Had jeans too.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, I'll do Jean's.
I have it pulled up for you.
Okay, all right.
And I'll find
Jean McIntyre. Okay, let's see. There were several though. Also, so we got a situation, filing an 1120 U.S. corporation income tax return as a corporation, not an S, not a C, but a regular 1120. Is that still considered a single member LLC? Yeah, I mean, I think usually the terminology for single member LLC is like the disregarded sole proprietor Schedule C, but you can have an LLC and only one owner, and that can be a C Corp. You can have an LLC, it would be one owner, and that's an S Corp. And then, of course, if it's an LLC taxed as a partner, you got to have a partner. And then, but I feel like the terminology of LLC single member is more clearly stating that this is going to be a sole proprietorship and or potentially what's on Schedule E, because you can have, in essence, a disregarded entity. But I think that comes into play. And then let's see, she had one other question.
Yeah, and you should just go back on the,
Oh, okay.
no?
Do you have Tina's? All right. Okay, so let's see the forgiveness spreadsheet. I don't see that. I see the self-employed PPP forgiveness. So Tina, check it out. It's an Excel spreadsheet. Brad, Homer Dog, I think he.
Oh, she said I found it.
Oh, you found it. Okay.
And then.
And then if you'll find Tracy, hers,
Tracy here.
right here. All right, so Jean, can I do this if it's just me? I pay myself, but I don't have a 941 or a C1. The earned income credit question, and maybe what you're talking about potentially is the employee retention credit, maybe. And you wouldn't be able to, I don't believe, I think it has to be only wages. And then will somebody confirm? I keep reading, and I must just be literally missing it, but I keep reading in articles that the owners can't take advantage of the employee retention credit on themselves. So I must just be literally reading right over it. But is that the case? Meaning, like, is that in the law that the owners are not able to partake in it? And then the other thing to note is that we want to hold our position as it relates to the taking the ERC if you're getting the PPP. Mostly for me, what I'm waiting for is to see how is that actually going to be recaptured. So I think it's clear it's going to be recaptured, big deal. But how? Is it going to have to be paid back, or is it going to affect the forgiveness? Because if it just affects the forgiveness, it technically allows the client to get some more dollars. So if they qualify in the first quarter, but I think there's going to be a number of people that are going to apply now for the ERC that maybe was thinking they were going to get the PPP. All right.
We already answered Tracy's question.
Hey, Valerie.
We already answered.
Oh, okay.
her question.
Well, Tracy.
I think you were thanking her because she
Yeah.
emailed about the bobbleheads and that she wrote the congressman.
Yes, that's what I wanted to. So I've heard from a number of you, and Tracy specifically, and I believe Mike and Simi Valley, you know, had reached out, and I was talking to a couple of bankers today, and they feel like the Bankers Association, I don't know if there's one for smaller, the smaller one, what did Matthew, I've not read the owners are out. Okay, thank you, Matthew. But, you know, I had a call to action yesterday. Jason of Meg Waters, I'm sorry, Dark Waters Megs. You know, I won't repeat his situation other than to say I was just really steamed. And I recorded some videos and sent them to some governmental officials. And at the end of the day, I was so pleased to hear that some joined me in that could or had the time. And then, so what I want to do is just real quick, and whoever brought to my attention about the 100,000, I appreciate that.
He's a CPA.
Well, there you go. I really do appreciate that. So I'm going to walk through very quickly. I'm not going to walk through everything. Okay. Okay. I'm not going to walk through every aspect because I'll let you watch the videos. And thank you for watching, by the way. But for those that are going to have some questions about the forgiveness, okay, I'm going to run through this really quick. So when we're talking about the PPP forgiveness with the Schedule C, right, self-employed, sole proprietor, independent contractor, if they reported that, you know, income on Schedule C. But we know that, okay, we've got Schedule C. All right, and we've got line 31. Okay, so that's what we're basing this on. Okay, so if we are looking at a situation where they have 24,000, okay, and this is their net income. Okay, so that's their net income from line Schedule C, line 31. So then to figure out on the PPP money, right, we're going to divide this by 12, right, and we're going to get 2,000. You know, I just have to say, when I was doing that example on the Schedule C, I was like, man, no one nets 240 grand on the Schedule C. Why did I pick that number? Anyways, all right, so you have 24,000 net on line 31. Okay, you're going to divide it by 12 to get your monthly amount. And then we know on the PPP, we take that times 2.5. And so now we're sitting at, on the loan, $5,000 on the loan. Okay? But what we're doing here is, when we're looking at now what is the forgiveness for the sole proprietor, it's not this number, okay? You're taking the net from your Schedule C again, and you're dividing that by 52 weeks, okay, to equal then a weekly amount, which in this example would be $461 a week. And then we know that the time period that we're dealing with is 8 weeks, okay? So if we take it times the 8, there's 3,692, okay, that's going to be forgiven. I mean, as far as I'm seeing it, like, that's just an automatic, like, that's just a guaranteed amount that's going to be forgiven there. But the thing that I want to note is that it's based on the net, not that. You come out to 52 weeks. But here's the other thing. When you look at this 3692, right? And if you divide that out, okay, it's less than that monthly, right? Because this would be, you're saying I've got 4,000 that I'm living on, okay? If I were to say that's over 2 months, but the automatic forgiveness is going to be 3692. I mean, it's not that different, okay?
Guess who's on real quick?
Who?
Ryan Phillips.
Ryan Phillips is on. Ah, what's up, Ryan?
I knew it'd be okay to
Yeah,
to
I
talk
love it.
about.
Ryan Phillips is a wonderful friend and client. He's also the head coach for Cooper's baseball team and got Coach of the Year last year for baseball and took his team to state. He's played in the pros and minor league and consider him a good friend. He's been Cooper's pitching coach since he was 8, and just the way the good Lord brought everything together, the district that we were already living in, Ryan ended up taking the job at the high school as the head coach, and so now Coop is able to be working with the greatest coach ever that's been working with Cooper since he was 8. Hey, thanks for being on, Ryan. So here's the deal, right? So that's how it works. Now, this will not apply at all to those that have employees. Yeah, I forgot to grab a paper towel. So the reason that I wanted to go through it, even though I've got some videos out there, okay, was just that may help solve some of the questions that we're going to possibly get here, okay? And then when we're looking at now doing all right, so now doing the, bear with me. You know, someday we may have someone that we can say, hey, will you clean this for us?
Well, you could have asked me.
Oh, well,
I'm
no,
sorry.
I don't mean that. No, I didn't mean it that way. Okay,
When
now
you-
we're gonna run through real quick.
One day, we're gonna be fancy and have one of those electronic whiteboards that you just throw your hands over.
Now I'm just gonna run through real quick, okay? So now I'm gonna go with the amount of payroll, okay, is 240,000. Okay, so this is not a, I'm sorry guys. Again, the reason to go through it is just to alleviate questions related to this. So 240,000, okay, so this is an employer, okay? 240,000, and if we divide that by 12, okay, this would be the total payroll cost, right? Then we're in a situation where we've got 20,000, okay, that's the monthly, times 2.5. What's up, Shane? Okay, so we have the times 2.5, which is the 50 grand. So here's more where I wanna, this is the purpose of really this is to talk about, okay, so if this is the loan, or really the grant until it becomes the loan, the 50,000, okay? What we have to do is on the 50, right? 75%, gosh darn it, 75%, okay, has to be used for payroll costs, which would be 37,000. All right, bear with me because this is where there's getting ready to be potentially, I think, a light bulb moment for a few. So this is the amount that has to be spent on payroll, right? It has to be at least 75% spent on payroll, okay? So that's 37,500. I'm gonna take it in half though, because so this would be in essence the monthly amount, okay? This is half of that. This is for the whole 8 weeks, need to spend 37,500. But then when you really look at this 18,750, as it's compared to, you know, we put down on every app, math would work out this way. 20,000 times 2.5 is 50 grand. 50 grand times 75% is 37.5, which is the equivalent of 18,750 a month compared to the 20 grand. So we already have kind of built in, because really if you have somebody and their true monthly still is, right? Because this is an average over the last 12 months, right? So the few clients that have already been inquiring in that, it kind of brought a sigh of relief, right? To go, oh, okay, so it's 20 grand that we said is the average, but 18,750 per month. And then basically then we would know the rest has to go over to the utilities. But for those that indicated that, well, I don't know if I've got enough money here to do, or I don't have enough expenses in rent to be able to do any of that. Does that look clear?
Oh, yeah, and
Okay.
everybody's having, like, Sandra just said, wow, light bulb moment, everyone's loving
Okay.
this.
Okay, good. So for me, it kind of relaxed myself as well. And there's kind of a reflection. I don't know if I can. No? Okay.
No, it looks great.
Okay. So just a little relief. So because here's the thing, if somebody is spending 20,000, right? That's their current amount. And you're talking 40 grand a month, 40 grand for the 8 weeks, well, then they're going to easily hit it. So it shouldn't be a big deal unless there's just really been a drastic change. And then I'm just going to talk about the ERC. Okay. And the ERC will be easy. And I'm only going to talk about it as it relates to first quarter, okay? So first of all, right now, if you're getting PPP, then sit tight on the ERC. IRS is saying you don't qualify. I'd like to know an effective date. I feel like things should have an effective date just to be sure. I understand it's quote unquote, people have indicated it's a double dip. I don't see it as a double dip in the sense of the employer paid all these employees, March 13th through March 31st, and then the PPP money that's coming in, well, it's paying for future 8 weeks. But I do understand double dip in the sense that, it's benefits coming from, the government. And, it does state in the law that the IRS has to do final interpretation and regulations that if somebody were to take the employee retention credit and then later get a PPP, how does that work? How does that recapture work? So would the recapture be, well, you're going to have to pay more payroll tax in essence, right? Because this is what that credit is, meaning you're going to just have to write some dollars back right to the government. Well, then why would you do that? But for a few of my clients, if we're able to get the ERC and all it does is reduce down the forgiveness at the end, and no harm, no foul in the sense of just less forgiveness, maybe I'm okay with that. Or this client that, maybe he's okay with that from the standpoint of they'll be able to get the credit, they get the PPP, but then it affects their forgiveness. And the reason I even think that that's a-okay is that that's how the sick leave and the Family Medical Leave Act, when you read the law in 1102, it talks about how if you take those credits, in essence, it's not going to count towards the payroll costs the same as the ERC wouldn't if it was during the era. So I feel like there's a couple of law firms out there that have written articles that seem to just have the same position, which is just, well, let's get more interpretation. Let's see if there is an effective date. All to say, okay, the employee retention credit is super simple, okay? I'm not going to get into if your revenue, your gross revenue is less than the 50%. I'm not going to get into that yet, or not even today, because I'm just going to talk about first quarter of this year. So from March 13th, okay, to March 31st, if you are less than, actually I think the IRS had it two different ways, but I believe the law is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 100 or less, okay, employees. If you're 100 or less employees, and I'll fess up on this. I've got someone in my office, not an accountant, but I was like, hey, read through these rules real quick because we need to get these 7200s rocking and rolling. See if anything catches your eye. Like, I'll review everything, but let's get going on this. And I was under the impression initially when I was like in this panic of like, we got to get these done, of they had to be home, but they could be working at home and it didn't matter. But the interpretation is truly this, okay? It's 100 or less employees from March 13th to March 31st, have fun. From March 13th through March 31st, whatever you're paying in the payroll, okay, times 50% equals the employee retention credit, which is line 1 of Form 7200. That's simple, right? Just what's the payroll? And Matthew hadn't come across anything either about whether employees or owners are excluded from that. So from my perspective, shoot, am I back? All right, yeah. I was trying to get rid of that notification.
Oh.
So from my perspective, if somebody now didn't get, so I have one client that they just didn't get their stuff in, right? They didn't get their stuff in. That's why they didn't get their PPP. So I said, well, let's get after doing an ERC, because I don't think that he's even going to get PPP if they bring back PPP, because there's already people in line, right? There's already people that, had their applications in and now they're just sitting there. And if they get more money, those applications would go through. So anyways, I just said to the client, I was like, listen, let's just get the ERC. If it turns out you can get PPP, then we'll deal with it then. But see, this is a perfect example of the law indicating if someone were to take the credit and then later get PPP, how do you deal with it, okay? But literally, it's what was your payroll, right? What's your gross payroll times 50%, okay? That's your employee retention credit for Form 7200. Now, what they want you to do, okay, is do 1 quarter at a time. So when you're filing Form 7200, you want it to only represent first quarter. Even if you're going to qualify for it in second quarter, you need to do a separate advance request. The IRS wants us to keep it to the quarter, okay? And then what I would suggest is if you have someone not doing the PPP, they're getting the ERC, you put in for first quarter, wait for the check to come back, and then put in, I would suggest a 7,200 for for second quarter. The other thing is it indicates on the form there's only a second and a third and a fourth quarter. So very clearly, even if you're taking it for first quarter, you check the box for second quarter. I'm assuming this is because the form got finalized before somebody realized, oh, wait a second, this one's March 3rd, it's after March 12th, because the family first coronavirus tax credits are April 1st and after, okay? So you're literally just your payroll times 50%, there's your employee retention credit, it goes on line 1 of Form 7200. All right, let me grab. All right, did I answer everybody's, the advance? So we got Nancy and Tina and Tracy, right? We took care of all those? Yeah. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna get in to more questions. And then if we do have some questions that is just what I went over, then I'll just encourage that individual to maybe go back and watch the beginning or watch the videos. And yeah, I think I need to absolutely redo that video of the 240. All right, hey, thanks for being here, depending on when you joined. Thank you, it's Friday. Amanda and I don't plan to go live Saturday or Sunday, but we'll be back on Monday. And gonna take a deep breath, maybe get some sleep, because I think then we're gonna have maybe a whirlwind of the loan forgiveness. And then I just to the other fellow advisors out there, or the bankers that are on, my take, and I said it in one of the videos, is I really don't plan to get too involved in determining if something's a utility or rent, other than, it just, the law says it's the basics, so it just seems like, how would your grandpa, classify a utility, right? Gas, water, electric, telephone.
Ask Casey, I see you just wrote a question, and I have your email up right here, and he's gonna answer it whenever he starts, so.
Perfect.
Hold on just a second.
Perfect. So, I'll just be telling clients that you need to just check with the bank. Because, probably all of us that are on here, we got, some different answers or different requirements, and some of the banks would want financials, some of the other banks would want additional information, some were checking credit, whatever the case was. And so, I'd have clients or somebody on, YouTube to say, hey, you said S Corp didn't count, but I gave it to them and it went through. And I said, okay, well, I don't know how it gets forgiven though. I don't know how it's going to get forgiven, because you didn't even get it for what it was intended to be for, and then you don't have any qualified expenses. So you're going to, in essence, be using it incorrectly. So I don't know how that works itself out. But anyways, I think there's going to be banks that are going to require different kinds of documentation. They're going to have different interpretations. Hopefully the SBA will come out with more information related to what qualifies as what, like they did with the sole proprietor, self-employed on the 14th, which I thought was great. It simplified out how do we figure out the forgiveness portion of the self-employed's PPP money. So anyways, just for me, I'm gonna be putting together the videos and just say, hey, here's the law. And then if I have clients that are needing clarification, I'm gonna say, why don't you just give your bank a call, because you're gonna be sitting eyeball to eyeball. And then I don't know about y'all, but I don't plan at all to be gathering up documentation, presenting it to the bank. I didn't fill out any applications for the PPP because I felt like it was a loan document, but I was instrumental in my clients getting all the documentation and helping them with the calculation and getting things to the bank. I thought it was cut and dry enough for my clients. So anyways, at the end of the day, I just wanted to also say that if we do have questions and it's somewhat of a, can I do this to get forgiveness? I'm just gonna say, hey, go talk to your bank if we have any questions that are covering that. So we'll let that individual know. So it's more just to say, if you're doing a can I, and if you have a detailed concern of, I have this, and then it was this, and then it was this, and then it's this, talk with your bank. We've got a worksheet started, and Brad has accepted the 4 a.m. challenge and has added some information or line items to talk about the haircuts, because that's the whole thing, right? The whole thing is there's caveats to kind of nab you at the end here, based on head count and things to that effect. It's just, I don't see a way around it. I mean, it's like a think of one of those impossible games, that either with the balls or the little, tees or whatever those things are. It's just like, everything's gonna affect the other thing and it's gonna come out in the wash. And I don't see any real saving grace with any of that other than pure haircuts. Okay, so usually I don't have as much commentary at the beginning, but I know we have a number of questions related to this. So, Cash Casey.
I applied for EIDL 329 and heard nothing, so applied for PPP 49. I didn't check the EIDL loan box on the PPP box because I had heard nothing. I received the PPP approval from the SBA 413 and bank has a closing. I have no idea when we will get the money. I noticed in my bank account that EIDL 8,000 for 8 employees was deposited. Assuming I get both, can I use the EIDL for non-payroll expense like the supplies we have to order and not roll the EIDL into PPP? Can they both be used for different expenses and still forgive the full PPP if used properly.
Yeah, gotcha. Let's see, dental practice, 3 weeks. Gotcha. So great question. The thing about it is, I would say you sign that PPP application to the best of your knowledge at the time. So I don't think you have any issues there. I do think though that you want to go ahead and get your PPP funds. Okay, get the funds, get them. Right, because you're still waiting on them? Yes. Get the funds. Don't create a hiccup. Get the funds. Then once you have the funds, I would bring it up to the bank only from the standpoint of, don't approach it, in my opinion, is, did we do something wrong? We must have done something wrong. How do I? Just say, hey, I just want to make you aware that when we filled out the application, I had no idea that the EIDL was going to go through because basically no one's was going through. It was supposed to happen in 48 hours. It clearly didn't. So I have this money now. I have this $8,000. And so my plan, bank, is that I'm going to use it for different purposes. Do you have any thoughts for me? Do you have any suggestions for me, bank, on how I can show that I'm spending these things separately? Because it will be the bank that you're in front of when you get to 8 weeks plus a period of time making your case. Now, I don't know if the bank's going to sit there and then be able to know, because both of these dollars came from SBA, that, oh, in fact, you got EIDL and you got PPP. So better to let somebody know ahead of time. I would document it. I'd put it in an email just in case somebody gets a wild hair on this thing later. And you don't need to over-explain it. Just simple explanation. Didn't know, thought it wasn't going to come, didn't disclose it. Now we got it. So your question to the bank is this: how do you want me to substantiate, document that I'm not using this for payroll, that I'm using it for the other expenses that don't even cover anything related to what I got the PPP for? So they may tell you to set up a separate bank account. If they're like, well, I don't know, well, then you need to get creative in your own thoughts or with your accountant, CPA, on what's a way that you could really segregate that out. And then it'll really be up to your bank, because really the way that it's designed, even though you weren't aware of it, is that, if you got EIDL and you got the PPP, okay, it would have needed to be on the app, and then it's part of the end process. It'll lead to an adjustment on your forgiveness. So I'm hopefully I'm answering enough of your question, but then also enough to say, get with your bank. You do not want to be in the room with them, okay, going over everything, 12, 16 weeks from now. And they're like, oh, well, if you just would have done this, then we'd be fine. But since you didn't, now we've got this repercussion of, this isn't forgiven. So innocent situation, just be in front of it, document it, and then whatever it is they say to do it. And if you have to wait 8 weeks to spend the $8,000 to then specifically indicate that you didn't use it for the same purpose, then do it. Because you definitely don't want to whiff around someone wanting to have a wild hair later that you did something incorrectly. But don't lose any sleep over it, but get ahead of it. So thank you for the question, Cash.
Just this Pokerman said that Chase Auto is deferring auto payments for 3 months.
Oh, nice.
You just need to call, and he's listed the number. It took him a couple of minutes with Chase Auto Loans. So.
Well, thank you so much, because I have mine with Chase.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. I've been telling clients and some friends, even though you may not have to, why wouldn't you on something like that, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, just from the standpoint of reserves, right? So from my perspective, if there's not going to be the interest, and I'm not saying, I'm not one like, well, they were giving out free hats, so I just went and got one.
Why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't I get a free hat? you know, it's like, well, if I'm going to use it and it's going to benefit me. So at the end of the day, thank you, because I will be on the horn with Chase.
I'll take a picture of the number and post it.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
Our next question, let me take a picture of this real quick. And then, hey, next question is from Vicky, who is a CPA.
Thank you, Vicky.
She has two questions. Our restaurant bar employees have been drawing unemployment since we were mandated to close on March 19th, with the exception of the general manager and kitchen manager. We have a 2-week payroll due to both managers tomorrow, April 17th, our regular bi-weekly pay date. Our PPP funded today, April 16th. Is it acceptable to pay the payroll from the PPP account since the pay date falls in the 8-week period?
Yeah, great question. And
Yesterday. Maybe not.
You do?
But go ahead. I mean,
I don't think so. They sent it at 6:44 yesterday,
okay.
p.m. Yeah, okay. Just making sure we weren't answering it twice. Vicky, thank you. What an honor, in the sense of genuinely when you have CPAs involved, and just an honor for everybody to be on here and just the wonderful support. So great question, because you know what? It's going to happen like over and over and over and over, right, with our clients. Because we know that, you know, we're not going to start a new payroll period the day the funding happens, and then we go forward from there. So, you know, since you're right at the cusp, it kind of makes it easy. And actually, now you just said that out loud, you guys your client might actually fall right into that. So it's a tricky question, because all I can tell you is that, you know, officially, it's to cover 8 weeks of payroll. I think the SBA is going to have to define that. I don't mean in the sense of, well, what's 8 weeks, but more define, okay, when does it get paid? Is it, you know, the 56 days? You've got to make sure you pay it before the 56 days, even though we're getting right. Is it okay if it's after the payroll period, right? So we're going to hit some logistical issues there that the SBA will have to help us out with. And then here's really the issue for me on that. And so I don't really want to make a definitive decision. So let me just tell you kind of what my thoughts would be on that, which would be, you're supposed to use the funds for payroll, okay? You're using them for payroll. You're not, you know this, no one's going to get away with like, oh, well, I got extra payroll in there, right? Because when you go to the bank, it's going to be literally like, we want to see the payroll that was incurred for these 8 weeks, you know, boom, right? So you know, and I know you're not, but we won't be able to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I haven't seen anything in there, and I'm not trying to be, you know, have that smirk and like, oh, I think we could get away with it. But, you know, I don't see anything in there that says you can only, out of your PPP funds, pay the payroll that is allocated to the 8 weeks. If anybody's come across something like that, it'd be great to know. So I'm just saying this. You know what? I've got clients that the only way they're going to pay payroll is if they're using the PPP money. So I've got a few clients like, yeah, you can use it. I said, run it by your bank, you know, let them know. And they're like, yeah. So all it's to say is that maybe you paid a bunch here in the beginning, okay? Now you're going to pay a bunch later. You're going to pay a bunch later. But then the last few weeks, how does that all come into play? But I want you to remember this, is that when it comes to the SUTA, okay, you will want to probably on that line item, as well as then the payroll. So if you have payroll that's doing this, right, during the 8 weeks, that's what's going to count for that 8 weeks. So if you have a bunch of payroll over here that's going to be different, you want to probably start tracking that like immediately. So we did have a similar question, and part of it was they're getting ready to pay their employees the last paycheck, and then all the employees are going on unemployment. So could they use the PPP money? And if I recall, that's I think the circumstances. And I was like, well, I don't think that you could. I don't think you can use it to pay, you know, the you know, whatever taxes are payroll taxes that might be due for first quarter. So it's a tricky one, and I would just say ultimately ask the bank about it. Now, when I was talking to my banker that I have PPP through, and the clients that are with them, I do know we are going the extra step that the money that we're pulling, because I set up a separate bank account, the money that we're pulling won't be the full cash requirement for payroll. It'll be just what the gross wages are, the qualified gross wages. So we're not going to pull out of that fund the payroll tax. So the only reason I'm telling you that is that it's not part of the forgiveness. The SUTA is. So a little bit of a math issue there. It's a very long answer, but I think it's a judgment call. If the bank's aware, you're documenting it. It is for payroll, which is the intended use. I don't think that the SBA would be like, nope, no one's going to get paid for those 2 weeks. The intended purpose is for what it's being used for.
Also want to remind everybody to please give thumbs up. We have 291 people watching and only 88 thumbs up. So please give those. It just bumps it up. It's a way for you guys to give back to all the information that JJ's giving you. So ramp them up. All right, and the second question is, we are preparing our first quarter SUTA and workers' comp reports that are due April 30th. Is it acceptable to pay the state taxes due April 30th for the first quarter out of the PPP account since the payment date falls in the 8-week period?
Yeah, I mean, good question. I do think though, it was already kind of my first answer is just, it is going to be the SUTA. It is going to be that payroll in the 8 weeks. I don't think ultimately it would be, well, what did you pay in the 8 weeks for just what you're experiencing right now? And that's where I've just told clients, like, we're taking a deep breath on this, okay? Just pay your payroll, okay? Because that's what's gonna count, okay? Whatever it is, whatever's incurred, kind of similar to the employee retention credit, right? So I've had a few that when we're talking about it, they're getting lost a little bit in, well, wait a minute, the payroll period, it doesn't matter, it's just, what did you pay those individuals on 13th through the 31st? So hopefully that answers the question. Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate it.
Pokerman wanted to say that he does hot shot truck and auto transport. So if you ever need a car transported or something shipped on a flatbed truck, he's got you.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. You know what? 2 weeks ago, I would have loved to have known that. I had a car come from Virginia.
Yeah. Right, yeah. All right, the next question is from Carol. And what can you do if you had a closed account on file with the IRS at the time that they tried to send funds?
What does that yellow thing say?
I didn't understand it. So.
Okay, anyways, sorry, I got distracted. What can you do if you had a closed account on file with the IRS at the time you tried to send funds? Oh, okay. So, what's the terminology? It's get my payment. So the IRS just came out with it. I was watching CPA Strength. I don't know if anybody follows CPA Strength out of Florida. He's probably, in my opinion, one of the most famous CPAs on YouTube. And he is the strongest CPA, works out all the time, does burpees and things to that effect. So hang on just a second. So irs.gov, and then, okay, yeah, it's get my payment. So go to irs.gov, get my payment. So click on that. I'm just gonna double check what I'm telling you because they change it. And if you, now this would assume you filed 18. So you click on that. And then I did have a client successfully today go through and change their account. I had, I don't know, 3 clients yesterday that the purpose of them going in was to change their account or add something, and they weren't able to do it yesterday, but I did have someone successfully do it today. So great question, I appreciate that.
Our next question is from Stephanie. I just wanted to say again how grateful I am for all the information you provided. Without you as a resource, I would have been dead in the water. My EA called me to ask questions about the PPP and how I got funded. I directed her to your channel. Yesterday, I stated I had applied for EIDL on 3/30. I applied for PPP on 4/3 and received funds on 4/7.
Wow, nice.
Today, 4/16, I received the grant of $10,000 from the EIDL.
Wow. Okay.
On my PP application, the question, has the applicant received an SBA economic injury disaster loan between January 31st and April 3rd? If so, if yes, provide details. I'm marked no. I wasn't trying to pull a sneaky, but I had heard applications were lost. I hadn't received any communications and I hadn't received any funds. I read the question as asking if I had received funds. I hadn't, so I marked no.
Yeah.
I have vendors that will need to, you know.
Yeah. Did we email someone had a really pretty much the same question. Did we email them to tell them the time?
I email everybody back.
Okay, so find that question, that email, and when you replied to that individual to tell them what time I talked about it, do that with Stacy. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know who the other one was. But
Okay. It was a question about this right here. So here's the thing.
I'll do it.
Here's the thing. I get you weren't pulling a sneaky, but I'm not going to go back and repeat, but it's really the exact same thing that I said earlier. So check that out, and at the end of the day, just get in front of it, let them know, and you want the bank to help and guide you on how to separate out that expense. And I get it. I think there was a number of individuals that were potentially in the same boat. Okay, so the next one, Grace Cross. I'm listening to your live show from today. I was unable to watch it live. Oh, well, thank you. You brought tears to my eyes. Aw, I appreciate that. I want to thank you for understanding the plight of the sole proprietor in this difficult time. I applied for everything and, of course, got nothing. I'm sorry, Grace. California is very late to the show, and we won't be able to apply for federal unemployment until April 28th. Wow. So don't take this as a political statement, but that really surprises me with the Speaker of the House, you know, coming out of California. I'm really surprised by that, and that is way too late. I could make it with just that. I could get it. I'm so grateful that you have made it your business and mission to give the voice to the little guy. That's what Jesus did, brought hope to the hopeless, championed the oppressed and forgotten, and did it because he loved us. Thanks for your love, JJ and Amanda. Really appreciate your selfishness and commitment, because that's been a long haul, and appreciate everything. So I should have just let Amanda continue on asking the questions, but anyways, just gratitude. And if you weren't on live yesterday or saw yesterday, I was pretty revved up at the beginning, and it was simply because of Jason, our friend. But just revved up that the money ran out, and there were people that had information, you know, to the banks on a timely manner, and due to the problem that sole proprietors, you know, self-employed, were being told they couldn't even apply until the 3rd. The banks I was working with are like, we're pushing the button, it's not going in for these individuals, so to speak, and then to be left out. So hopefully with the next round of funding, that's what I got fired up about, is that it'll be just allocated to the sole proprietor and the small business. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean to shut any employer out, right? But it's almost like the companies that I work with, okay, are mostly 10 or less. They don't have the same reserves as someone that probably has 50 or 100 employees. So not to say that 100 employees, so even if it's just, well, the ERC, okay, went with 100 or less, so maybe we go with 100 or less employees on the next round versus 500. And then maybe there is a limit to it, not 10 million, you know, maybe there's just a limit of like 100,000 or something, I don't know. All right, Grace, thank you, and good luck to you.
All right.
Shriver?
Our next question is from Tony. Shriver just sent you the information you asked him to send you
Oh,
yesterday.
okay.
did you get Tony?
Yep.
Okay. Got PPP on 4/15.
Nice.
And we used to pay April 1st rent. Here's another thing to think about. We do bi-weekly payroll ending 4/19, which is paid on 4/23. Is this included since cash is going out during the 8 weeks, or should I only count 2 days, 4/16 and 4/17?
Yeah, similar to that. I mean, I do like it. We're getting other examples. I think the fact that it's for payroll, I think you use it. The thing to know is, and I think you get it, but it really won't come into play like, well, when did you pay the payroll? It will be, what was the payroll in that period? So, you know, unless someone feels strongly, which I would welcome the opinion on it, but the fact that it is being used for payroll, I think that where you wouldn't do that though is if you had a bigger payroll that was getting ready to be paid and you knew that the future payrolls were going to be less. Okay, well then you'd probably only really want to scoop out, which would be, you know, consistent with what the payroll is going to be going forward. So I would just do it carefully. And then as it relates to the rent, you know, I had someone else ask me about this, and you know, when we talked it through, the first thing to note is that, you know, it's only going to be 2 months of rent, period. It's only going to be 2 months of rent. You might have somebody check with the bank, depending on what kind of dollar amounts we're talking, you know, here in terms of how they would feel about it. But at the end of the day, right, in these next 8 weeks, even if you paid April 1st, there's going to be a May and there's going to be a June. Now we know this, it's only going to include 8 weeks. So even though it would be 3 rent payments in the 8 weeks, there's only a possibility that it is for 2. So I think what this money is meant for, right, is if someone owes April 1 rent, to pay it, okay? Just knowing that it's only gonna be for the 2 months and for the 8 weeks. And really, if anybody has, I've not come across anything that gives any real direction on that. And I think at the end of the day, just knowing that it's what is actually gonna count is the 8 weeks. Because I'll tell you this, I have some clients and the bank just dump the money in their operating account, and now you just, you know, you had a big bowl of water, you're throwing another bowl of water in there, you know, a cup of water in there. Now it's all mixed together, right? So from that standpoint, it's like, well, are they really using the PPP money, or are they using their own money, or whatever? So I think it's just going to more come down to, on the payroll, what actually was incurred. So good question on that.
This one, the rest of those,
On Anthony?
yeah, the rest of those were thank yous.
Okay.
Get over here so I can read it. Where did it go?
Awesome, thanks so much. I own a nail salon and indie contractors. Do I need to calculate to see what the net income may be dollar-wise and go that route, or get all of it but time it out correctly? Already approved for PPP, but they went with my net income, right? You had some startup costs this year, which, you know, drove down the Schedule C line 31. So only got this dollar amount indicated, worried that I'll affect my 8 weeks missing out on the unemployment, okay? So was wondering about how to maximize the situation. So this is the part though that I don't know technically where I would come up with this answer, but here's what I feel the answer is. Go back to earlier in the live, or you can go to another video, which I'm actually going to have to replace the video because I used the wrong amount. But anyways, the amount that you will automatically get forgiven is line 31 divided by 52 weeks times 8 weeks, and then that's an automatic amount that will be forgiven. So the quandary here is, okay, do you now get the federal unemployment? And I don't really know the true answer to that, because I do know the spirit of this Paycheck's protection money is to, in essence, give you, if you're, you know, an employee, you know, with your S Corp, like like me, right? I pay myself wages. And so when I'm paying myself for the next 8 weeks, I can't go claim unemployment, the same as you, in the sense that I understand that your number is low because you had startup costs, and so you're gonna say, hey, I got this PPP money, but it's not enough. I need to go get unemployment. When I don't know if the SBA is gonna make it clear and say, well, listen, you know, we're gonna take your line 31 divided by 52 times 8 weeks, and now you're stuck with it. Okay, meaning that's what you're gonna have to live on for those 8 weeks. But I do know with, you know, unemployment, it seems like at the federal level that if you have a drop in your revenue stream, you know, that you're gonna qualify. So here's what I've been telling people. I did an hour seminar to a group across the nation, thanks to one of the viewers. And part of what I had indicated when we had these questions was just, you know, go apply and see what it asks, and then and I know you will, but you just, you know, answer everything accordingly. You know, and if you're truly not going to be able to live on that, you know, that is the spirit of the 600. I do think, though, the problem here is you have the circumstances that maybe it feels okay to do that, but then you're going to have those that they didn't have startups, so they had a big net. They take their percentage. It's really supposed to last them the 8 weeks. So, you know, file with your state, answer the questions based on the amount that you told me in your email there. If I remember the number correctly here, I don't think you should have much worry, but here's what I would do out of an abundance of caution, okay? What is it that you do live on? Okay? So on a normal basis, sole proprietor, like what is it that you live on? Okay? So what is that? Okay, I'm just pulling this out of the air. But what is that? And then when your PPP money comes in, let it last for that long. Okay? And then maybe go get the unemployment. Now listen, that's not really the spirit of this. It's supposed to be, here's what you make for the 8 weeks. You're stuck with it, or here's what you made for the 8 weeks. So there's a gap. It might end up being 6 one, half dozen of the other. But I do feel like the spirit of all this is to ensure that you're made whole. So that's a really answer that's just, because there's nothing out there, in my opinion, that addresses it. So I think if you're just approaching it with some methodology, that would help.
Tash says, thank you so much for answering my question. I've learned so much from your videos. You're a great speaker, by the way. Easy to understand.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm going to grab this real quick. What's the next one?
Our next question is from Mike. I'm going to do the Form 7200. I own an S-Corp. I give myself a payroll check, but also a monthly draw. Should I add the monthly draw or just only use the payroll? Also, I need a new CPA. Anyone you know adding clients? Yeah,
well, hey, I really appreciate that. Let's see. I don't know where you're at. But, you know, go to, if you look up the state society, so, you know, if you're in Kentucky, go to the Kentucky Society of CPAs and see what it is that they have on their website, because I know in Oklahoma it has, you know, CPAs that are, in essence, taking on new clients. So I appreciate that. So for sure, it will not include your draws, unfortunately. It's only going to include what is actual wages, and part of that is that, you know, the ERC, you know, I threw up there it's 50%, but there is a limitation to it to the extent of the Social Security tax of the employer, but taken over the year, okay? So that's why if you're taking a credit for a quarter, I would assume you're gonna have enough Social Security employer tax to cover that credit. So with that being said, let's see, there was one other question. Oh, the only thing I would say is, Matthew, CPA on here, Tina.
Yeah, Tina's on.
Even if you're not open. So, I don't know, Tina, Kenda, maybe, what are your thoughts on, have you read anything that owners can't use the employee retention credit on themselves. I've read articles, but that doesn't really hold weight with us, you know that. But I don't recall seeing that in the law. I don't recall seeing it, anything that the IRS provided. Thank you so much, Helen. So anyways, is Becky on?
That wasn't Becky, it was.
Oh,
somebody
okay,
else.
sorry.
That's
All right, we'll see. Haven't seen anything.
But no, the person you're answering.
Okay. All right, well, let me just go with this. Go ahead and apply, get the credit, I mean, there's nothing out there saying that you can't. I mean, if I was gonna do the credit, I was planning on including myself because I haven't read anything about it. So I don't know where that's being brought up. So thank you, Becky, or no, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Becky's our next one.
Okay.
Becky from Wright Accounting Services.
Boom, I love it.
Do you
Red
recommend, doing the 7,200 for everyone for the dates of 3/13 to 3/31? Like, obviously the PPP money had not come in during that time frame.
Yeah, Becky, you know, long story short is that if the client is getting PPP money, I think you need to hold with that client. And what we're holding on is what's the effective date that the IRS is gonna come up with. And, you know, if it is just gonna be, well, it's just no matter what, well, then the law indicated though, what happens if someone takes a credit, how is it handled, how is it recaptured? So I wanna know that part too. So even if the IRS, quote unquote, is silent on the fact that you just don't qualify. So to me, it goes back to, you know, 1 million BC to 12/31/20. I would like it for it to indicate that, because anything usually that we're reading in the tax law gives a specific start date to something. So anyways, we want to figure that out. But even if you cannot take both, but they qualify in the first quarter, they paid it out of their own dollars, they qualify, you take it, and there's going to be a recapture, okay? How's the recapture? Was it a dollar amount that's going to have to be literally paid back? Then why do it? But if it's just a reduction in the forgiveness of that loan, then maybe it would make sense to take the credit. But long story short, if they're getting PPP, let's wait and see. I think the IRS will probably come out with some more. Hopefully they're going to see that they do need to define how the recapture happens. But then of course, if somebody didn't get the PPP, then I would do the ERC. And then of course we need to probably make sure that our clients actually didn't get it. Meaning, we know we had someone earlier that they had the number, they had the SBA number. And so I feel like, well, that person's getting PPP funds. So, all right.
All right, our next one is from Denise. You're awesome as always. I got confused at the end. This is talking about loan forgiveness for self-employed. I got confused at the end. First, I scrolled through all the links about forgiveness and self-employed, and I can't find the worksheet you alluded to in your video above. All I see is a worksheet for employees with payroll. Any way of isolating that linked document for self-employment forgiveness? Also, I get the math that you did above, but got confused about justifying to a loan officer about forgiveness. So if I can't use funds for home office portion, etc., what can I use it on as self-employment to get forgiven? Perhaps in the worksheet, but I can't find it.
Well, hey, thanks for bringing that to my attention. I thought that I had put it up. So maybe I just was putting up stuff and didn't get that one up. So I will look into that. And so just know this, Denise, I will do that pretty quick. But it'll definitely be up tonight. And then in terms of proving it, I think what I took from the SBA guidance that came into play hang on just a second. What I took the SBA guidance to be is just, you're taking your net of your Schedule C line 31 divided by 52 times 8, okay? Boom, done. So in terms of substantiating, you know, well, did you pay yourself that? with a sole proprietor, with a self-employed, with an independent contractor. It's not really possible. I mean, you don't really have to have a separate bank account. You're not paying yourself wages, you can't. So I don't think we're gonna have to at all substantiate self-employed income as it was actually paid out. I think it's just gonna be, there's that dollar amount, boom. And then I do know, just because I just went through it with this seminar, but I do have a list of, and it says self-employed items that count for forgiveness and what doesn't. And it's straight from the SBA. I didn't even put it in my own terms. I just literally copied it over and then just kind of broke it up with bullet points. And I said below, you know, the above is from SBA, and then down at the bottom I put, and I indicated it was me saying it. Here's what then I don't think would count. I feel like the SBA was clear enough on kind of what's going to count. So go look at that list, and then on the worksheet, I will put it in there. And then if you could roll back to the beginning, I did another example. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Our next one is from Casino Nights LLC. I've sent you an application about the reality show, which we do have and we will be addressing. I applied on the SBA website for EIDL, no reply of any kind. I reached out to my bank about the PPP. They said I don't qualify. I kept trying and tried 2 other small banks, but never got to make an application. My wife and I both applied for unemployment in Oklahoma. They have received our application, but they don't know what happens next. We have enough cash to make it through the summer, but who knows after that? Any ideas of someone I should reach out to? I'm not asking for free help, I'll pay, but I've had bad luck in hiring accountants in the past.
So, thank you, Denise. Sorry for the circumstances that you are in. So you have the unemployment coming in, hate it that the EIDL didn't work out, or the PPP. You're not alone on that, but go to the video that I did, and it has a $25,000 amount in the picture, $25,000 SBA Express loan. So they have SBA loans that are supposed to be quick, guaranteed quickness, and it doesn't require any collateral, and it should go quickly. If you already have a bank, if your bank is already an SBA lender, then tell them that you want to go ahead and do that SBA Express loan. And then if you are at a bank that's not, then also at SBA.gov, you're just gonna have to fish around for a little bit. You'll find it eventually, because they kind of changed up the website a little bit in terms of the options now that there's no money. My point is that there's a spot, and in fact, if you go to one of my videos, you'll see a link to it. But anyways, there's a spot that you can find an SBA lender, but you probably, even if you Googled SBA lender. So I think that's the route you would want to go. Now, of course, that's not a forgivable amount. You wouldn't need to pay it back, but it sounds as though it's easier to get and it'd be low interest. So I would go that route. Seems like that would be good. And then I look forward to visiting with you soon. Thank you for the question. Thank you, Denise.
Our next one is John. He'll have to skip back quite a bit to get to John. But when I go to the IRS, get my payment app and enter my information, I get the following: payment status not available. According to the information that we have on file, we cannot determine your eligibility for payment at this time. We filed for 2018 and we paid what owed in full for our bank account. We have not filed for 2019 yet. Any advice? By the way, my neighbor gets the same message.
Yeah, it seemed like yesterday everybody was. Today everybody is. I did have a client that was able to successfully go through all the steps to update and change the bank account, but it still said, eligibility unknown. So for me, I just wouldn't worry about it. The fact that they went and they indicated that they recognize you, because I did have a client that went and checked for their mom, and they said, we don't have any information to even make a determination. So you're in the system, and I would just sit tight. And if you went to log in, you've done all you can. Unfortunately, there's no way to push it any further. So I just sit tight, but I bet you the money's coming, because I've also had 2 clients that they said just what you said, and then literally the next day, the money hit and was deposited. So hopefully you'll get it soon.
Our next one's from Linda. Any word on self-employment, any word on self-employed unemployment program open on OESC yet? Thanks so much for your time and efforts to assist so many in the past few weeks. Ordered your book.
All right, thank you so much.
She is the left-handed pitcher mom that was a former Dodger minor league.
Okay, awesome. So when you say OESC, that's Oklahoma, maybe?
Maybe.
So on my website, jjthecpahelp.com, I've got a page that's unemployment, and on that page is a link to OESC and Oklahoma Employment Security Commission. For whatever reason, if you go to their normal site, you don't find it, and then when you go to, you can just Google it, but it does appear that Oklahoma, as of April 11th, is paying it out on the self-employed. You can also go to my website, jjthecpahelp.com, and on the unemployment page, I also have a link to the Department of Labor page that will then link you to any state unemployment website, which you can then take a look from that. But it sounds as though the ones that are doing it are making it known. Like you go to the website and they make it known. I'm kind of surprised that the news around here didn't make it a bigger deal than it was. So anyways, well, good luck to you on that. Thank you so much for your question.
Our next one's from Maureen. Thank you very much for all your videos. I have 2 questions. I have 2 jobs, one regular full-time, applied and get unemployment. Second statutory employee getting W-2 and showing my expense in Schedule C. Can I apply for PPP? If yes, should I write a check to me?
Well, PPP's run out, and I think in those circumstances, you are running 2 different streams of income. You're getting the unemployment on the wages, and then you're relying, on income that comes from a Schedule C, which then you would be able to do the PPP. But given that the PPP is not available, probably no reason to comment on the future money coming, because we don't know if it'll be handed out in the same manner. My hunch is that it will be potentially different. So we just need to kind of wait and see. And then I'm glad that you were able to get on unemployment, at least for your job. And sorry for the circumstances that you're in.
Our next one's from Albert. When FFRCA applies because of condition 1, does your employer have to pay you full 80 hours for 2 weeks of a full rate, or is the payment limited by the employer's total Social Security payroll tax? Still unclear on how this applies.
So the employer that is trying to look at it, because I had a couple of them that did that, they're like, okay, well, what's my credit going to be? Because then that's all I want to pay the employee. Well, it's like a circular calculation, right? Because the credit's only going to be what it is that you're paying the individual for the coronavirus for the 10 days. So then the only time we really get into this issue would be if they're making above the thresholds, right? 200 a day on 2 of them, 511 on the other. 2 of them on the sick leave, it's 10 days max. On the Family Medical Leave Act, it's 10,000 per employee max. So really what it comes down to is the employer, if they're paying on those Families First Coronavirus Tax Relief Act, they should just pay, because they're going to get a credit equal to that. But I understand now your question also is about the limitation on the Social Security, okay? So my understanding is that it's the Social Security for the year, right? Not just for that payroll period, because that's actually the purpose of the Form 7200 for the sick leave and the the Sick Leave and the Family Medical Leave Act, because if you're making a payroll deposit and your credit is higher than the deposit you're getting ready to make, well, then you're going to fill out a 7,200 to get that credit, so to speak. So it does say specifically you can't file in advance for the sick and the family medical. Kind of like in the beginning instructions, it says that here in terms of in advance and anticipation. And remember, that's how those credits are realized immediately and provide that immediate relief. And the IRS has an example that, if the amount of payroll tax that's due is 10,000, and payroll tax as in the withholdings, everything, right? Okay. If you're supposed to pay in 10 grand, but you have a credit of 15 grand, you're going to pay in nothing, and then you're going to fill out a 7,200 and go and get that credit at that point. But yes, overall, so if you're getting into some extenuating circumstances in a long period of time here, then you're definitely going to need to reevaluate it. But that's a long way of also saying it's not designed, though, for the employer to reduce down what it is they're paying to the employee. Those one credits, it's 100%. The ERC, it's 50%. So it doesn't really just come into play in my mind. It just needs to be, what do you pay them? That's what it is. If anything, if someone makes more than 200, you can say, well, hey, I'll pay you up to the 200. I'll pay you up to the 511 on those credits. But trying to gauge, and then same thing, I'll just throw this out there on the PPP money. I've had clients that are like, so when I get my PPP money, I'm supposed to pay my employees only 75% of what they make, right? It's like, no, you need to pay them what you've always paid them. That's what the PPP is all about, number one. Number two, you're gonna get a big old haircut. I like Brad's terminology on that, the haircut. So great question, I appreciate it, and best of luck on all that.
Insurance money from Clint. What is one has business interruption insurance tornado that is paying payroll and you have the PPP? Double dipping?
Okay, I better read that one. Oh, business interruption. Oh, I got you.
And they may still be on. They just sent that like 10 minutes ago. So.
Yeah, I don't think so, because first of all, I think that can be, wages that have already been paid or lost or whatever, whatever the qualification is in the past. The one thing to note, though, is that it's not so much that it's a double dip. However, if you're getting funds from insurance, it's going to reduce down the expense. So very indirectly, you now have insurance money, and it's not that it's taxable, but just like the monies that come from the PPP, it's not that it's taxable, but it's the expenses that it pays are not deductible. So when you're getting that money, and if it's allocated to wages, the way that that's going to be accounted for wouldn't be up in the gross income, in my opinion. It would be maybe a separate line item, so you could still track your payroll, right? You'll still track your gross payroll, but then as a sub account would be that insurance proceeds, which then reduces down indirectly the amount of payroll that you have for the PPP. But that's an interesting question, because I don't know that the PPP considers that. The benefit that you're receiving is because you had insurance or your client had the insurance. And that's a really good question. I don't think it's a double dip. And you're going to still have the payroll expenses, because it's not a direct offset. It doesn't directly offset it. It's more just a P&L offset. I would just say this, though. Have your client get the funds, get them from the insurance company, right? And now with the money in front of the client, this stuff can be figured out, right? Because you're not gonna be able to return the PPP money. The insurance company just needs to pay it out. At any point you could give money back, right? But get the money. And then I think that might be something to disclose to the bank so that they're aware. However, maybe it's that you're applying for a period of time that the PPP isn't covering. So if that's the case, I definitely don't see it as a double dip. I don't see it that it would be something that you would need to disclose to the bank, although it's never hurts to make disclosures in these matters. But if that's covering, you know, from whatever date that you all had to go home up until the point that the PPP, okay, you are going to still have that offset to the payroll, but I don't see that as a double dip. It's an insurance benefit that you paid for, and then now you have the PPP funds for the going forward, and yeah, and then just see what your bank thinks or their bank thinks. But I would be very clear with the bank, extremely clear, that whatever just got paid out of the insurance company covered this period, if that is true, covered this period, not this period, assuming this is the PPP period of time to come.
That's it.
Wow.
That is another episode of JJ
Wow.
the CPA here for the public, America's
Ah,
CPA.
thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. Don't
Yes.
forget to do a thumbs up. All right, so I saw a couple of things. I'm gonna peruse these because I saw a couple of quick ones. Let me do this. I'm not right up in everybody's face here. And all right, so is there a way to pause this thing?
I think we can pop it out.
Oh, we can pop it out? So it's like bigger or something? Pop out. Oh, sweet. Thank you. Look at this.
It's a
Okay. Thanks, Tina. I appreciate that. Nancy, does his book come on audio too? Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I replied to her. And
Okay, no, I'm just, yeah,
we need to do that.
Let's see. All right, Jermaine, hello from LA. Helen, I'm just popping through some questions. Dixie, I'm sole proprietor and getting PPP. Didn't include in my income the amount I'm eligible for unemployment. I didn't include my income in the amount I am eligible for unemployment. Dixie, I'm not sure exactly.
I'm talking to somebody else.
Oh, okay, maybe, okay.
The
TD
trolls are out heavy on Fridays.
Sweet. We're just getting to be big time. TDJ, thanks for the help. You bet. Got EIPL, so EIDL. Got an advance of 9K. Okay, for one employee. No email. Well, you probably got it under the old school method. And let's see. No email or contact from SBA. What should I do when I get more money? Also, can I use that advance for?
Yeah, we had like 3 CPAs one day helping us.
Okay. Well, TDJ, when you get an EIDL, you don't have to pay it back, period. And I don't see that you got PPP, so you're probably good to go. You just pay the expenses that you have for your business. Thank you, Helen. I appreciate that. Let's see. Tina. Let's see. Okay, she's talking to somebody else. Manzoor. Any news on the PPP number 2 funding? I have not come across anything. Omari from Orlando. Any word on the EIDL? Haven't received any money yet. If you received maybe a confirmation, I think you're probably in, but we just saw that somebody got money and never even got confirmation. Maverick Construction, our bank had our PPP application for over 10 days and we still didn't get it. Goodness. I had counseled, for lack of a better word, people that, keep track of the documentation, because if there's going to be any kind of class action suit, or if the government's going to have to make some kind of, I don't even know what, you want to be in on that, so to speak. So keep your documentation to show when you put it in, who you talked to, how many times you followed up, who did you talk to. Same thing with Jason. Because I'm telling you this right now, I know the banks overall, right, worked as hard as they could. I know that the smaller banks worked their tails off, right, working weekends and nights. And we heard from one that their spouse, 1 a.m. To the first thing in the morning. I think it was, probably the bigger banks were just able to suck money out quicker. Anyways.
And Jason, did you do Jason with Darkwater Max, did you get to do your news report on this? I was just curious.
Guns N' Roses for PPP. What's up, Guns? What if all the owners are employees and there is no payroll? Distributions paid as revenue come in, paid checks. Can the checks be used bank documentation? Well, the SBA did come out and say that for partners, it is up at the partner level. So it would depend if you're a partnership, Form 1065. You'd want to just basically pay out whatever the distributions are if it was at the partnership level. So all the owners are employees and there's no payroll. Just keep in mind, I understand that it, just regular terminology is, well, I have an employee. Well, employee, just being technical here, is defined only as a W-2, right? So you probably are a partnership. That's why you're not paying yourself wages, because you can't pay the owner's wages in a partnership. So it's probably what you are. And therefore, you would be paying that out of the partnership level. But here's what you really want to do. You're going to be in front of that bank within 16 weeks. Give them a holler and get some direction from them, because they'll be the ones that judge it. All right, Brad MC, thank you so much. Question for PPP, loan and unemployment. Can you get unemployment, then go back to work for the 8-week period? I think yes, especially if you're segregating it that way. Hey, Kelly, let's see. Should be no tie on Friday. That's a good idea. We'll just take that right off. All right, Carol. Where is that list or worksheet on your site?
Good job, Jason. I'm glad you got your interview shot.
Oh, awesome. I love it. I think, Carol, it's on the page that says forgiveness. And I'm going to double check, but the worksheet apparently is not on there. I did some updates for this webinar, and so maybe I was shifting stuff from one page to the other, so maybe it got excluded. Let's see, Jeffrey, JJ, it's JMO here with you, 266 others. That's all your unique help. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, Helen, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Omari, what would the credit score need to be for the Express loan? That's a really good question. I will tell you this. Go to SBA.gov, and in the funding opportunities, you'll see the Express. They've got a little kind of cartoon. Click on that, but they have a PDF that's like 9 pages long that runs through the process. And if they're going to do a credit check, which I think they do, okay? And I'm just thinking normal times with SBA, they're doing a credit check and need financials and all that good stuff. But this is supposed to be a quick turnaround. The SBA is, in essence, standing behind it. So do that. But then, hey, you know what? More importantly, right? Here's kind of the theme. Just go and ask, if your bank's an SBA lender, and don't ask, no offense, but don't ask, what credit score do I need? What you ask is, I need to do an express loan for 25K. They're gonna say, all right, here's your application. You're gonna fill it out. They're gonna say, I need this, this, and this. You're gonna provide it, and then they're gonna make a decision. There's no reason to prejudge your credit. There's no reason to give a banker a reason to prejudge your credit. You're not being deceitful, right? It's not our job, quite frankly, to say to a bank, hey, what's the credit score have to be? And then you go look up your credit score. Now, I'll say this, if there is a hardcore number, I think you would find it in the PDF. So that's your homework, right? Find it in the PDF. If it's not in that PDF, then get to the bank and say, hey, I need to do the express loan. And then, hopefully it'll just all work itself out. Let's see. Yep, thank you, Fred. You are on point there. Non-filer, well, see, I just got jumped. Wow. Okay, I guess I'm not, I thought I had less here. Let's see. All right, I'm just perusing here. Today I received, Joshua, today I received my PPP and I'm an independent contractor with W-2 and 1099. Clients make up the majority of the income with W-2 count towards my forgiveness. Let's see, W-2s make majority of the income. Oh, absolutely. When you did that, you did two calculations, or it should have been, which was you're having a calculation that's basically your payroll cost, right, divided by 12, boom. Your line 31 divided by 12, boom. You take those two amounts, but then now when you got your money, okay, you should be able to go, well, based on my net times 2.5, the net income on my Schedule C times 2.5, okay, that's the amount that's related to the self-employed. Here's my payroll cost times 2.5. That's the amount for the W-2 wages. And then you're gonna do accordingly, okay? And there is specifically, if you go to my website, jjcpahelp.com, all completely free, but on the page of the, well, I think it's in the forgiveness page. I just switched it up. But anyways, it's SBA guidance. Okay, the SBA guidance. You'll find it on my website. It looks like you have the picture of the document. It says SBA guidance on the 14th, and it talks about just your circumstance. And the way that I'm describing it to you is how you'd want to do it. But then get that, read through it, and then alert your bank that you would want to make sure you're doing the two calculations correctly so you don't get to the end of the 8 weeks and then something was missed. Yeah, Carol, is the ERC essentially an IOU later on? It's an IOU later on if you get the PPP. I like that. That's a good way to put that. Let's see, Michael Williams, hey JJ, do you think there needs to be some kind of investigation or class action against big banks handling the PPP? Absolutely. And I think part of it for me is, the bigger banks. Now, I will tell you this, I've heard fabulous things about Citibank, okay? But at the end of the day, when you have the larger banks saying, well, you have to have a lending relationship and a bank account, or the banks are saying, well, you need to have a business account. Okay, well then set me up a business account, right? Those that created new hurdles that weren't required, I don't know that anybody's gonna really get a whooping if they were asking for financials, but I've got a client that, they did get their information in late, right? They did get it in late. They could have got it on the 3rd, they put it in on the 10th. And then the bank was like, oh, well, we need you to get this done. And I was like, he doesn't need to do that. Nope, we need it. It's required, SBA said. I'm like, well, they didn't. Anyways, so I took him to my banker, and that was like 4 o'clock on whatever day it was, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then yesterday it just went away. Let's see. FW for solo prop, does 401k contributions count? Well, I'll tell you this, until April 14th, I sure thought they did based on what we knew at the time. But after April 14th, it said that it's line 31, period, the end, no inclusion. And they even went so far as to say if you have employees and you're paying for health insurance and employer match for the employees on your Schedule C, you get to include those as payroll costs, but it made it hardcore clear that you take Schedule C, line 31, and that's it. Now, My thought process is, though, it said on the 14th that it was, take place immediately forward, right? Immediately forward. So if you were putting in an application in good faith, you included the things that it said you could include, which would be that, then that may lead to the loan forgiveness. But the real answer is just, you really want to check with your bank on that, because you don't want to do it and then it be an amount that's unforgiven, but you now put it in your 401k and you can't get back to it. So be very confident in what you're doing there by just then checking with the bank. Thank you, Nancy, telling everybody to get heads up. I appreciate that, or thumbs up. Gene, thank you. Local realtor. PPP are frozen now by our bank. Let's see. What difference does it make if a business is a franchisee? I think it just comes down to the number of employees, because there's a 500 limit, and so I think that's more what it had to do with. But I don't have any clients that fit that bill, so I didn't really look into it that carefully. Local realtor, do you think there'll be another opportunity to apply? I hope so, and I hope it's for the small business owner. Let's see. It's whiskey time yet, Tony? Yep, I'm liking that. Let's see, James and Michael. Dark Waters, James. Okay, we've got a number of, let's see. Andre Love, do I practice in California also? Hey, I appreciate that. I don't, and I'm not in a position to bring on new clients. So I appreciate I appreciate that. Check with the California Society of CPAs on their website. Let's see. Something about cabbage. How do you receive an invite? Jamie Smith. Okay, these are just people. Dax. I think that James Smith. Do you think these local realtors, JJ?
Thank you, Coaches Pit Barbecue. He bought your book today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Everybody that we were sending stuff to, it got to the post office today, so we're excited about that.
What did you ask me? I was removing another troll.
Oh, I think most of these are.
They're just asking each other questions.
Yeah. I was just kind of double checking that there wasn't anything direct here. CT, can you clarify if officer wages are forgivable? Yeah, if it's actual wages, absolutely on the PPP. So we're talking wages. Now, if it's guaranteed payments on a partnership, yes. And then according to the SBA on the 14th, the self-employment income for a partnership, they don't want the individual to apply at the individual level. They want them to include it up at the partner level, which means that then those distributions would then lead to the forgiveness. How could it not? The one thing that'll be interesting there is, the allocation, okay, of the dollars being put into the partnership, and do the partners pull out the exact same amounts that they were before? So little trickiness there on the partnership. I think we still need a little bit more direction, but W-2 for sure. Let's see, FW Focus, you bet. And Coach's Barbecue, I love it.
We appreciate that, Coaches.
Absolutely, really do.
Can't wait to receive it.
Well, thank you so much.
With my guys.
Thank you so much. I really, really genuinely appreciate that. All right.
I wish we could get some of your barbecue, Coaches.
Yeah,
I
no
wish
doubt.
you were here.
No doubt. Let's see. Yeah, so SR is the EIDL guaranteed to be paid back, or is it free regardless of how I spend it? Well, you need to spend it on business, okay? But if it's a business expense, my understanding is you're not going to have to pay it back, and it is for whatever business expenses you need to cover. But you do want to make sure that you're showing that it was paid for business expenses. Have you heard of anybody getting a PPP through Cabbage? I think other people are answering that. And then Brian and Jen. Let's see. How do I categorize the PPP money deposited in a business account in my QuickBooks? Yeah, so I'll be doing a video on that, but there's kind of two methods, and I think it kind of depends on is the client ever paying attention to their financials or not, which is that you would make the deposit and you'd set up a liability. And then as you're paying those expenses, you're booking that to the liability, which would reduce down the liability over time. In essence, it's not being put on the P&L. I think for a lot of my clients, though, even though it's not income, my clients need to know what their payroll is when we get to 2021. We don't want to, in 2021, try and remember, like, hey, well, how much of that payroll got paid by PPP because it didn't get booked on the profit and loss. And then this is where, you know, for me, we don't do compilation, reviews, or audits, okay? We do management use only. But bottom line is that these are management use only QuickBooks files for me. So we are gonna leave all those expenses on there and track all those expenses. I am gonna book it as a liability. And then the way I'm gonna account for it on a lot of clients is the way that you would account for the R&D credit being a reduction of expenses, which is to say on my 1120S, you know, down in other deductions, I'm gonna have a negative expense, so to speak, you know, just PPP proceeds. And then, you know, that'll be only to the extent of forgiveness. Right? So if there's a dollar amount that's not forgiven and now it's just a loan, okay? So, you know, when I was talking about an example earlier, you know, if you got 50K and 10 of it's not forgiven, okay, well, you're not putting 50, okay, towards the offsetting the expense. You'd only be putting 40 towards it because you're gonna have to pay back that 10. That's how that 10,000 liability goes away, is by the payments. So that's why I also think that's probably a good way to go. All right, look at this, 5:58. We were planning on going a couple of hours. Let's see, before this, I had plans to start paying myself through payroll, single member LLC with employees never taking distributions. Is it possible to start that now that I'm funded? Well, if you're a single member LLC, I'm gonna assume that you are a sole proprietor, and so you're not able to pay yourself wages through Schedule C. If you're a sole proprietor S Corp, which usually people don't use that terminology. So if you're a Schedule C, you're not able to partake in wages, just the same as a partnership's not as well. If so, would this be considered a forgivable expense? So go and look that you're gonna take your line 31 divided by 52 weeks times 8 weeks, and then that's just gonna be your forgivable amount as self-employed, if I understood that. Let's see. All right, when you stop by Covina, California, we will have some USDA prime brisket with your name on it.
Woohoo!
I love it. We'll have to look up how close that is, where we might actually be going for the reality show. Felicia, can I pay my business credit card with the EIDL to be forgiven? So the first thing is, you know, on the EIDL, you don't have to, we got someone doing some scribbly scribble. It's not forgiven. It's just you don't have to pay it back. But actually, I've read that yes, if it's a business obligation, so if it's a business credit card meaning business expenses are on there, I was actually surprised that it said you could do it for debt obligation. So I think you would be fine there.
Daniel Lawhone said, saw the coffee cup down with PPP. I will order one if I ever get EIDL or PPP.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. So
How do you see it?
I don't know.
Huh.
So we should put it in there. What is the website? It's
You never sent it to me.
Teespring. Let's see.
I don't think
Oh, I know. It's in the body of.
Oh, then, yeah, because you can't put links inside the thing.
You can?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we're gonna try.
There's a link under the video.
Oh, okay. There's a link under the video.
For everybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, in the video is a link to a Teespring store with a bunch of JJ the CPA merchandise that you guys can buy if you would like.
Yeah, so we've got Power Couple mug with, on one side, we've got Amanda's book, and then on the other side of the mug is mine. And then I have a Who's Down with PPP mug and a Who's Down with PPP t-shirt. And then for some of the CPAs out there, I've got, you've never met a CPA quite like me that doesn't have to sport.
We do need to be a potato. We will get them eventually.
That's right. That's right. But anyway, so yeah, if a CPA wanted to get something because you've never met a CPA quite like me, well, if the CPA has on it, it's about them. But I do put a little bit of JJ the CPA on there. So.
And I only said that because Carol said it. I wasn't interrupting you.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, where's my pop out? I lost all my comments. Okay, there we go. All right, so Chris Johnson, employees are 100K annually. Do PPP funds need to be prorated? They do, and in fact, it specifically stated that in the SBA guidelines that came out on the 14th. And let's see, does anyone know a good CPA in Orange County, New York, Hudson Valley? JJ, any idea what the current, this is Darkwater Megs, any idea what the current situation is with having apps at different banks? My bank sat on an app for 13 days, so scrambled to put PPP in with Cabbage and another business. Yeah, well, maybe, check back and, just see. They may have, one of those banks may have, put you in line, so to speak. If they bring in funding, you're in line at 3 banks. So, I'd probably, just leave it there. And I know that as disappointing as it was with the bank that you're with, if the funding comes back in, I think that you would have some real weight that they needed to get yours through, right? And so maybe they would have to kind of make up for it by making sure if the next round comes that you absolutely get it. But at the same time, people are saying with Cabbage and then with, at the time, Intuit and PayPal and Square, we're getting into it. Of course, those companies know how to do stuff online and streamlined. So I just sit tight on that. And then, at this point, if with your circumstances, if you did have 2 go through, so be it, okay? And then when one of them came, when it was time to sign, you just say, oh, can't accept because I got one over here. So don't get me wrong, I don't think that that'd be a strategy, but since you already have the apps in, I just let them sit. So I hope that that comes to fruition. Let's see, there was a link under the video, silent carryover, James Smith. I can't hear him.
Thank you, Nancy. She said, yes, we have to give Amanda, our girl, a shout out too. Don't forget, be a potato book on Amazon.
Yeah,
You're
that's
so
right.
Sweet.
That's right. Thank you so much. All right, question, can you get an employment March 13th at PPP sole proprietor schedule C? Between March 13th and PPP sole proprietor. Well, the PPP is gone and it's the 8 weeks forward. And then the unemployment, if you're getting it back to March 13th in your state, through the date of PPP, that seems like it would be okay, but you'll just need to go through the questionnaires, Dan and Marianne, at the state level. So go to SBA, scratch that. Go to my website, jjthecpahelp.com, go to the unemployment page, and then I have a link to a website put together by the Department of Labor. Click on it, and then you will see that you can pick the state that you're in, and now you'll be at the website on the unemployment, and then apply is what I would do. And it'll guide you through the questions. Let's see. Tiny Dancer, Chase gave a note for PPP. It will be funded, or does Chase customers get the note? Chase gave a note for PPP. Will it get funded, or did Chase customers get the note? I'm not sure what that, I'm not sure. I'm not following. I'm sorry. Let's see, Chris Johnson.
Thank you, Jason. He said another great live session. Congrats to those that got PPP. Good luck for those still waiting and hoping.
Yeah, and that's very, very gracious and generous of you, Dark Waters Meg, Jason. So, all right. Well, listen, you all have a...
Nancy, you're so sweet. You're making me blush.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, listen, you all have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy, rest up. I know that I'm going to try, and I'll be back on live Monday at 4 p.m. And we will be releasing, starting next week, some pre-reality show episodes. And we'll pick a time that we know we can consistently post those, but we're planning on posting 3 reality series episodes a week, but those meant to be maybe, 20 minutes long, something to that effect. So anyways, we're going to be this weekend spending time going through all of the applications that we've received for the reality show, which we love, the premise being JJ the CPA here knocking on your door. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the business overall. Let's walk the store, so to speak. Let's figure out where the weak links are together. And I don't mean like you're spending too much on a Beamer payment. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the top numbers. But that'll be the premise of it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. We'll be able to help some people. And the thought process is those that have been affected by the coronavirus crisis will need to be in a situation maybe where they could get a little extra push. So not coming in as an investor or not coming in to become their CPA, just coming in to bring some JJ the CPA. All right. Well, hey, thanks to everybody. You all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Daniel.
Wonderful weekend.
Thanks to everybody. Really appreciate you all. Jason.
Nancy says, I'm taking bets. I bet JJ can't take the whole weekend off. You guys have a great weekend. We love you all.
Let's see. All right. Thank you so much, Jen and Carol. Appreciate that. Yeah. You're right. Nancy's right. Yeah. Maybe what it means is I won't stay up till 4 a.m.
Yeah, I'm not going to let him do that.
All right, Carol, thank you so much. Yes, Fred, thank you. Thank you so much. Coach's Barbecue, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Dark Waters, yes, have a good weekend. 45 minutes later, 8 videos go up. All right, Carol, you make me look smart. Oh, good, I love it. Ronald, thank you. I appreciate that. Paul, thank you so much. Have a great weekend as well. Ronald, very much appreciate that. Nancy, go take care of your woman. I like that. That's a good idea. She knows, right? She knows. What's the difference between PPP and PUA? PPP doesn't exist and PUA does. So go get you some PUA at your state. Esther, I truly enjoyed JJ the CPA and Amanda. Looking forward to the reality show. Awesome. And hey, we put something in the mail to you, so look forward to that. Nicholas, thank you. I appreciate it as well. So hopefully everybody's going to have a good weekend. Carol said, yeah, 421 for wherever you all are. And again, thanks so much to Eric and Allie and Kimberly. Thank you so much. Man Mari, Q Flyer, thank you so much. Tiny Dancer, Carol. And so anyways, thank you so much to Jason and Ben Franklin and Julio, Kenda, Dr. Stark, Clay, Brad, which was something dog, I've already forgotten. I know, but Mike of Simi Valley, CPA, Brent, Diana, Allegra, was she on today? No?
I didn't see Diana.
And Nancy and Tina and Tracy and Fred and Matthew, and I'm missing some, I'm sure. So thank you so much. All right, sounds good. Fred, thank you so much. Recharge your batteries, I appreciate that. Charlotte, enjoy the weekend. Excited to see if more money is made available. Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too, for sure. All right. Hey, thank you so much. I'm going to spend the weekend, bombarding Fox News. Oh, to hit me up. I love it. I appreciate that. Yes, I'm loving that. Thank you so much. Right. So if we're on Fox News, we know it's Nancy.
It's Nancy.
Yeah, love it. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for all the support. You guys make it all worth it. And here's to a great week next week. Tracy, yes, Tracy, thank you. You too. And we'll be talking to y'all soon. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Enjoy, Nancy.
Bye.